Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for PrEP and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org.
I'm Khalil Ekulona, and this is Nashville. In order for a city to thrive, it needs participation from, well, everyone. Elected leaders and business leaders may hold a large amount of power, but in a democracy, the greatest power is held by the people. When neighborhoods and communities organize to ensure that their voices are heard, and when decisions are made, things get done. Changes happen, and in the end, our democracy is stronger. Here in Nashville, there's evidence of community organizing creating institutional change. Look no further than the Varsity Spending Plan sponsored by the Southern Movement Committee, or SMC, and the Black Nashville Assembly. In this plan, a new city department will be created, the Office of Youth Safety. The plan was given the go-ahead when Metro Council approved the substitute budget in June. So let's learn more about the Black Nashville Assembly and the Varsity Spending Plan. For that, I'd like to introduce my guests for this hour. All of them are with the Black Nashville Assembly. I'd like to introduce Erica Perry, the Executive Director, Jamel Campbell-Gooch, Organizer, and Mike Floss, Arts and Cultural Director. Welcome back to This Is Nashville, everyone.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's going to be a great time. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Really excited to have you here. Okay, so I want to get something clear. You all are the Black Nashville Assembly, but you're also with the Southern Movement Committee.
Yeah.
Explain the difference for me, Erica.
Sure. So we started the Black Nashville Assembly. We really started working on it in 2020, and it is a community organizing and political engagement project that has its own member leaders and practices its own form of like strategy and programmatic work. And then in 2021, we saw the need to engage in statewide work and to particularly engage young people. So we started the Southern Movement Committee, and what we did was the Southern Movement Committee now has 3 projects. It has the Black Nashville Assembly, the Youth Assembly, and we have our statewide assembly. And then we engage in campaign work and political engagement. But the foundation of all 3 of those different projects and programs is participatory democracy. Mm-hmm. And so I'm the executive director of the Southern Movement Committee. We have staff with the Southern Movement Committee, but each body, Youth Assembly and Black Nashville Assembly, State Assembly, they really engage in their own kind of programmatic and strategy development. And as staff, we really coordinate those efforts and make sure folks have what they need to really engage in the organizing and political engagement that's necessary.
Okay, cool. So this went from like a local idea to spread across statewide.
Absolutely.
How have you seen, Jamel, how has that growth really happened over the past couple of years?
Well, this is where really Mike, the Arts and Culture Director, really comes into play here with making our things look very cool. So recently, not too long ago, we did a bunch of tour stops where we went across the city and really engaged artists that lived across the city to really like engage with them and really, really dive deeply into like the art scene in other places. I don't know if Mike wants to talk about our statewide.
Yeah, so we went to Paris, Tennessee, Chattanooga, Memphis. We did shows in Nashville, and just trying to engage statewide and build relationships. You know, a big part of this work is having good relationships with the people that are authentic, and also being able to learn, you know, landscapes and who's doing, you know, really quality work across the state and building that out. And also having a good analysis on seeing like, the stuff that people is experiencing in Paris, Tennessee, they're experiencing out here in Antioch, they're experiencing it in Memphis, they're experiencing it in Knoxville, and this is this could be a unified front that we can present forth and say, hey, this is how we want to shift some of the things that's going on in this state.
Now, Mike, you're the Arts and Culture Director, but you're also one of Nashville's most shining, if not the most shining, hip hop artists.
Thank you.
In the city. Well deserved.
Thank you.
How are you using that, your expertise in hip hop and music and arts, to draw young people across the state into the fold?
Yeah, I mean, you know, this thing we got called hip hop, you know, it spans across many generations at this point. So being able to use a lot of what I've learned as being an artist and a lot of the relationships with creatives and visual artists and different mediums has been really beneficial to our organization and showing people, you know, one of the most most valuable things I've been able to do is show people that, no matter what skill set you have, you can bring it to this organizing work. If you're a really solid computer engineer, there's a space for you to exercise that skill set and contribute to this movement. So just showing people that it doesn't necessarily have to look like one traditional way of participation, but whatever it is that you bring forth to the table, there's a space for you.
I want to talk about that philosophy. You bring up an interesting point. In 2020, I was in New Mexico, and a lot of people were, as all of us were, going through the effects of the pandemic, particularly George Floyd's death, Breonna Taylor's death, and the uprising that happened after that. And I remember being on the phone with my older sister who was in Los Angeles, and she's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how I can be a part of it. And I said, do what you're good at. Do what you're good at. You don't have to suddenly be out there and become a constitutional attorney if you've been a thespian your entire life.
Right.
What are you really good at in doing? Is that similar philosophy? It feels like that's what Mike was saying. Is that what you do when you go out to people and you engage in different, from your older folks to younger generations, Erica?
Yeah, for sure. There's a line in this book, I've Got the Light of Freedom, I've been reading. And it's like basically like you find people who are already working and then you build on what they're doing. And so you find people who are already doing great things, amazing things, and then you ask them, hey, would you like to contribute to the movement we're building? And then there are folks also who don't yet know what they're good at. And so what we say is like, if you haven't figured out you're a great chef or you're a great attorney or you're a great teacher, you can phone bank, right? You can knock on doors. And so there is a role for every single person, no matter what folks' skill set are or how far off they are into their journey of really learning what their passion is. And what we hope to do is help folks see the connections between the different skills they have and the different life experiences they're having, how it's connected to other folks' experiences and skills, and how we can use that to really service our people and really build out a powerful movement that can transform the state of Tennessee.
Right. Some transformations that you all have recently been a part of are the varsity spending plan. In fact, you all were on the show in June to talk about the petition for the VSP and the project as you proposed it to Metro Council. The plan that has three pillars: community center programming, restorative justice, and the office of youth safety. I want to briefly talk about each pillar. What is the goal of the community centers in VSP, Jamel? Like, what do you all want to see happen there?
So I come out of working at a community center. I worked at Easley Community Center over at Edge Hill for quite some time. So one thing you will learn about if you ever get a chance to work in a community center is oftentimes the collective community information is there. So if anything is happening in the community, it is housed and centered at the community center as far as the information. So one place, especially when we talk about proactively solving conflicts so they don't escalate into something more violent, is what does it look like if we use the information that our community centers have to help heal and solve conflicts before they escalate, right? We have great people that work in our community centers that sometimes don't have the resources to solve the community issues that they see. So our community places like the community centers, our libraries, those are really the grassroots level where we see people interact and also where conflicts happen. And because of that, they're also a place where conflicts can actually start to be mended and the relationships can be restored so they don't end up activating and escalating into something more violent.
Okay, I like that. Now, restorative justice pillar. What is the foundation of that?
Yeah, so what I'm excited about naming is that what you see in the varsity spending plan is a product of young people's, their vision of what keeps them safe, what they feel like will make their community stronger, and then the other community members and their families. And so the restorative justice comes to us really through a series of conversations and workshops with young people who really want to address conflict in a way that is generative and healthy, and also want a practice and a culture in their schools and in their neighborhoods where there's a way to deal with conflict, a way to build relationships, a way to hold each other accountable, invite us into transformation without throwing people away, without folks being arrested or incarcerated. And so the restorative justice that we talk about is a practice and it's a culture along with the community circles, along with the community accountability. But we hope to see that we got funding. Well, the city allocated funding for a restorative justice pilot program at Napier Community Center, which we're extremely excited about. And so that's a huge part of it. And we're just so grateful to be able to really be able to practice that at the community center while also expanding community center programming because a part of restorative justice and restorative practices also is making sure people have ways to really channel their grief, to really channel their joy and excitement. And the community center programming allocation that Councilmember Porterfield made sure was there. It's a $250,000 to go to community center program. It's also a piece of restorative justice. It's making sure that young people have things to do, programs to engage in their communities that they self-select. And so I think that's really, really important to name, and thankful for the council members, our community members, our young people who engaged in this really amazing and democratic process.
My father always said you can tell the condition of a community by looking at its community center. That the fact that it's $250,000 are invested in it. Which community centers are going to be affected by this investment?
So one thing we do know is that Napier is the place for the restorative justice program. I think the conversation around where the program will go, we're still having that conversation.
Okay. Now,
but I will say that when we looked at the varsity spending plan, the community centers we selected were community centers that have been impacted by policing and incarceration, and then also community centers where we saw young people being impacted by harm. And so that is where we also hope to see that increased funding.
Okay. Now, the Office of Youth Safety, what would that do?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. The Office of Youth Safety is again the brainchild of young people saying they want alternatives to police and jails. And so I'm so proud of what that vision, how we saw that vision kind of play out. And so the Office of Youth Safety is really for us about and the money has been allocated through the city for that to be inside of the city or metro. But it'll be about collecting data, developing a needs assessment. I think also a major piece of it will be a programmatic work around alternatives to police and jails, not to disperse money to nonprofits, but for the city, right, to really own a robust program that is engaged in innovative ways to create public safety and safer communities. And so, we've looked at models in places like Chicago, in places like Durham, North Carolina, in places like New York, where folks have really experimented with ways to use restorative justice practices as a way to prevent violence and offer solutions to conflict that do not involve harm and do not involve jails. And so the Office of Youth Safety will really be that kind of focal point and will ground people in that, and then also will implement that program.
You said something interesting. This money is not going to be dispersed to local nonprofits who are doing this efforts. This money is purely for the city to develop an office, a new department robust in that. That's a different approach.
Right.
Than normal. Why is that important, Mike?
Well, we feel public safety is a responsibility of the city. Right. And building some infrastructure and doing innovative work, like building the first Office of Youth Safety in the country that is to hold that work. Like the people that work at the Office of Youth Safety will be Metro employees. Right. So that comes with a different level of intention and a different level of investment that we hope to see advanced and continued in years to come.
Okay. Now, you worked with kids, the youth. I'm sorry, I keep calling them kids.
Young people.
The young people, right? Don't at me, y'all. They'll get you. They will
they
fast.
Be listening.
They do. So, you worked with young people, and Erica, you said that they developed this plan. Jamel, tell me, was this all them? You guys sat down and you said, what do you want to see? And they came to you with this list of demands.
Yeah, so for our youth assembly, the way the program kind of works is we look to develop young people who have a affinity or an idea that they want to participate in this type of human rights, social justice, community improvement work. And we sit them down and literally lead them through a curriculum where they learn, what is the difference between advocacy? Why do we do community organizing work? What does it look like to build power amongst young people, come to a collective decision, and then advocate for that decision? So our young people last semester kind of went through that process along with the members of our Black Nashville Assembly. And they came together and refined their ideas of where they wanted to see investment, and that became the creation of the varsity spending plan. We used the participatory democracy model to literally bring our members together, young, across generation, right, across political participation, and literally have them go through the options and decide amongst themselves what does this collective thing looks like? And that thing came out to be the varsity spending plan.
Now, back in my day, which was a long, long time ago, when people came to the youth and said, hey, do you want to get involved in a community project? It was normally the kids who are part of student government, all the kids who were leaders. What type of youth did you all have coming to work with you?
So we had a little bit of everybody. We've had young people sprinkled throughout the Middle Tennessee area, right? Because some of our folks are literally being displaced while we talk, right? And so we've had folks that are coming from Clarksville, but we also have folks that went to Pearl-Cone, that go to Whites Creek. We also have our programs go from 14 to 26. So we also had TSU students, Fish students. So we had a little bit of a mix of everybody in the space. And the way we do recruitment is we try to go into those spaces. We had a conversation with a freshman at Pearl last year, right? So we even have some of those folks coming on. So we try to spread through word of mouth, but we also try to go into those spaces that young people are and literally just introduce the idea of the program to them and see if they apply.
Mike?
And also, we've seen a wide range of, things that those students are interested in. We got students that are in the marching band. We got students that are in student government or class vice president at their school. We got students that really found their voice through this process that haven't really been involved in a lot of different extracurriculars, but through this, they're beginning to find themselves and blossom and grow into really brilliant leaders. So we've had very different types of archetypes of students. And what's interesting is they all are coming with a lot of shared experiences, a lot of directly impacted folks when it comes to gun violence. And they come up with these things. Like one of the questions we like to ask is what makes you feel safe or what makes you feel unsafe? And when you synthesize that information, you see those through lines and you see those commonalities. All
right. Speaking of rising the youth and them finding their youth, we have a clip that happened at Metro Council as they were advocating for the varsity spending plan. Let's listen.
This is why I feel you should support the varsity spending plan.
I ask that y'all open your hearts and your minds to see this.
It allows an opportunity within and outside of school for me and my peers to have an emotionally healing environment.
Teenagers and or children experience traumatic and life-changing experience when simple conflict is dealt with legal force.
Gun violence that could have been avoided,
which not only stress these relationships, but can result in the incarceration of youth.
Please pass the varsity spending plan.
My support for the varsity spending plan, our varsity spending plan.
I'm asking that you support the varsity spending plan.
In support of the varsity spending plan.
Please add the varsity spending plan to your wish list.
I'm not asking that you add this to your wish list. I'm demanding it.
Varsity spending plan. The varsity spending plan.
Varsity spending plan.
The varsity spending plan.
I support the varsity spending plan, and I encourage you to as well.
Before I say anything else, I just want to say, varsity, I salute your power, and we support your cause. Great job showing your power, young people. We love you. We believe in you. Keep doing it.
Sounds like we're hearing the voices of future mayors and senators in that group. Now, the varsity spending plan asked for $10 million, but received only $1 million in this year's budget. How did the youth react when you all got the news that it was approved, but at this rate?
So it was an amazing win. I will tell you that right now. So not only did our youth react with a lot of energy, but also the Black Nashville Assembly members did too, because it was a combination of this effort that was across generation. It was a lot of screaming on the phone. It was a lot of clapping, and to have folks that are not usually a part of the civics process to be able to enter into it in this way and get a win is amazing for our young people, right? Because these are not the young people that are usually welcomed at the table. For them to be able to come together and be like, we want the future of Nashville to look like this, and then receive any sort of investment into it, I think creates a momentum for these young people's lives that we are yet to be able to see and even be able to communicate in words. So it was definitely monumental.
Sometimes you guys got this win immediately. And sometimes people don't get wins at all. And older folks can become cynical, and they just have a lack of faith. But seeing this, how did this change some of the folks you work with? How did it change their perception about what can be done in working in this manner with an organization and the city government?
I think we're talking about people's faith in democracy and what that really looks like. Like a lot of our young people are not 18. They're not able to vote. And they are able to participate in this process. As you see, you have tools like public comment. We host a community dinner where we watch city council meetings And we learn what that process looks like. We learn who your city council person is. You learn what things that they have authority over. We learn what type of system is Nashville when it comes to the mayor. We learn all these different things that says, oh, okay, this is how I can participate. We've had a member who was facing a issue with his apartment complex, and being able to use the skills from the community dinner to email his council person and say, hey, my apartment complex ain't following the rules they're supposed to be following. I'm going to add you into this email and get an immediate reaction from the apartment management to get him in a better living situation. So that education being dispersed amongst the members and amongst the young people is invaluable, and it shows them and invigorates them on participating in democracy and being creative, innovative, and consistent in what that participation looks like.
And if I can add one thing on top of what Mike just said, it's also a community that's being developed. So many things around us tell us that to go at it alone. And what our young people and even our adults, what they have learned through our programming is that we're stronger together. One reason we're getting an immediate response is because we are collectivizing our analysis solution and we're working together to get it done.
And I think it's important to name that we have been doing this particular type of work around the budget for 4 years. And so it might look immediate to people, but it's really quite a few lessons, challenges, adapting and evolving. And so we got to the point where we were like, hey, what would it look like to really bring our two different bodies together and go for something big? And the other thing I'll name is that we won $1 million for the city to allocate money to go towards a vision of public safety that is like grounded in community and care. But the other win was in our young people being able to participate in democracy, their families being able to participate. And so I'm really grateful we got the $1 million. And we still have to go after that $10 million, but it's also huge to be able to participate in our democracy, participate in community organizing. And so there's a win in the leadership that folks develop there. There's a win in the relationships that folks are able to develop. There's a win in folks being able to really say, hey, we knocked on 5,000 doors. That's 5,000 people who know about the Southern Movement Committee and know about a new vision of public safety, right? That's that's a significant win, because now we're starting to shift culture. And so I just want to name that there were so many different wins and lessons, right? And lessons, of course, in our campaign.
All right, let's take a quick break. When we return, we'll learn more about the concept of participatory democracy and understand how the Black Nashville Assembly puts those principles into action. We'll be right back.
Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for PrEP and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org.
I'm Khalil Ekulona, and this is Nashville. My guests are the leaders of the Black Nashville Assembly, a nonprofit organizing committee that works with Nashvillians of all generations to create long-lasting and effective solutions to the problems we face. I'm joined by Erica Perry, Jamel Campbell-Gooch, and Mike Floss. Again, thank you all for being here. Now, I want to read your mission statement that's on the website. Quote, the Black Nashville Assembly, BNA, is a participatory democracy, Black organizing, and political engagement project. The BNA is a quarterly assembly of Black people in Nashville. At our assemblies, we discuss the issues that impact our lives, create solutions that will transform the lives of Black people in Nashville, and take collective action to implement those solutions, end quote. Now, I want to talk about the concept of participatory democracy. Here's what the Council of Europe says about the concept on their website. Quote, there are different levels of participatory democracy practices, information, consultation, dialogue and partnership, and many different models to organize participation, be it a user-friendly, interactive, multiple homepage, a consultation platform, a participatory budgeting initiative, or a citizens' assembly. The aim is to always engage citizens or civil society actors in local, regional, and national decision-making processes on issues that affect their daily life, end quote. Okay, so we talked about it a little bit earlier, but I'd love to hear from each of you for this. How does participatory democracy fit here in Nashville?
Yeah, in our work or in Nashville in general?
Nashville in general.
Okay, so I think in Nashville there are, when we started our work, we really wanted to ground in participatory democracy because we did see a few gaps, right? We saw that there are challenges, right? Maybe because of state law, also because of accessibility for, working class people, for young people, to be able to really participate in our democracy. And when we say participate, we don't mean just voting, but really decide what their communities, to be able to shape their communities. And so I think that, there are gaps and challenges that we have to address, and we exist to address those challenges. What we have done, when there was when there has not been a process to significantly engage the budget, right? When there has not been a citywide participatory budgeting process, we said, hey, we'll use participatory budgeting, and then we'll organize our people to advocate for the budget that people and community members created. And so again, oftentimes when community members have not been a part of creating policies, we said, hey, we'll create infrastructure for people to engage in collective and participatory policy making. And so, there are gaps and challenges in Nashville, as there are across the country. And so our work is to really look at those gaps, call the city to ask them to really address those gaps while also creating that infrastructure ourselves to be able to build power both inside the system, but also as a community, right? It's on us also to figure out how do we engage in communities of care? How do we make sure our spaces are more accessible? How do we also make sure that we're doing the relationship building that is necessary to engage in long-term movement building?
You said something really interesting about taking responsibility in the community itself, because sometimes people can look at things and say, okay, the government has to do this stuff. But what about the power that already currently exists within the community? How can that power be shared to bring about change?
Yeah, so this is where participatory democracy and our assemblies come into play. So our assemblies are used as a function to collectivize our analysis, talk about our solution, and then build action plans around those solutions, right? So we understand that a piece of that action is the community doing things that will help the community, but also we often need policy and legislation to make sure those things become multi-generational and are not just limited to the space that we're talking about in the moment. So we use the legislation, right? If we're talking about the budget, we use the participatory democracy to not only talk about what are the investment gaps that are happening in our community, how can we solve those issues in the community, but also how can we get investment as far as our tax dollars to make sure that those solutions can expand and include everyone and continuously grow, right? Because any ideas that are only born in the community, if we just leave them in the community, they lack the ability to grow and affect everybody. And in turn, they lack the ability to actually end the problem and solve it for good.
Erica.
If I can add, what I have loved about the budgeting process the last few years, and it's just because I've been back in Nashville in 2019, but what I have seen in my last few years is that there are different organizations who are saying different things about the budget, right? SEIU has been really clear, hey, we need to, increase the wages of public workers, of public employees. NOAA has been consistent about housing, right? We've been consistent around investing in social services and really reducing our reliance on police, cops, and Cajuns. So that's been really clear. And what I saw, especially this last time, is that there was a concerted effort, right? The teachers union was also saying invest in the varsity spending plan and increase our wages, right? Our young people, we were saying, hey, invest in the varsity spending plan and also increase city workers' wages, invest in housing. So that's shared power when it's we know our lane, we understand how we relate to each other, and we're not afraid to say, hey, we also support the other initiatives and then other budgetary investments that other organizations are calling for that righteously they deserve.
So it becomes this chain of support. Now, this seems like the kind of concept that would really open the eyes of cynics and doubters, someone who is just completely and totally sour and tired of the same old thing. Mike, you are in charge of outreach. Have you seen the idea when you present this idea of, hey, participatory democracy to someone who is totally sold on the idea and they don't want to be a part of it? Do you see light bulbs start to pop up in their minds?
Okay, Khalil, can I keep it 100?
Yeah.
So
a hundo.
We've been doing this work for the past few years. And, you know, when we say door knocking, we literally mean walking up to people's houses that you do not know, knocking on their front door and giving them an invitation to become involved in this process, right? And we've gotten all types of responses on doors.
Every single one.
You may get somebody that's 110% like, yes, thank you so much. No one's told me about anything like this before. I really want to be a part of this. You may get somebody that's, you know, more cynical, that's more like, I don't think nothing ever gonna change. They told us to vote for this year and that year and the next year. I never seen nothing change on my street, whatever. But we say oftentimes that the Black Nashville Assembly is a place for people who don't vote, can't vote, or feel they have nothing to vote for. So once they get an opportunity to say, okay, well, maybe I don't so much, I can't vote. I was formerly incarcerated and my voting rights have been taken from me. What can I even do? You know, I don't think there's any place for me here. But when you come into the assembly structure where we're voting inside of the assembly on what issues are affecting you right there on your street, what issues are affecting you at the bus stop, what issues are affecting you at work if you work for Metro, when you start to communicate what those things are and other people have those similar issues, and then the organization collectively says this is a priority, then takes action, and you see something change, it completely shifts the way your connection to democracy feels and looks. So I think it's really organizing work. It's really about showing people what their power is and encouraging them to exercise it.
Can you guys give me a story of someone who you ran into who was a cynic and has totally become like one of the most ardent and powerful members?
Yeah, so I'll give you one that comes off of time. I'm not going to say their name.
Yeah.
But also, just so we clear, when we talk about community organizing, we're talking about organizing to get the goods. So just to be clear, I know it's a bunch of youth assembly members probably cheering right now on the other end of this. But so we had a young person that came into our space one time that was just like, you know, I have a lot of issues. I got a lot of problems. I don't know what the solutions are. They were just in that fog, right? And they've been around us for a year and through the life of the varsity spending plan and through all of the work that it took to create the door knocking, the door hanging, the phone calls, the tabling at events, the flyering, right? And at this point, they just like, yo, I really love this community. I love being in this space. This is a space where I can really see myself. I can do this work to improve my community, which is oftentimes, we even have members that say, they come in the door, they was like, yo, I didn't know about this varsity spending plan thing. I was a cynic. I didn't really know if it was going to happen. But on the back end, also, when we've done the training, the talking about city council, on the back end, they're like, yo, this thing really did work. So those stories are sprinkled throughout members all day, every day, right? Because we get everyday folks that walk into the space that just have never heard of this, may not believe that they can talk to random people, but they come out being like, oh, it's this thing called community that people really do care about.
If you're just tuning in, this is Nashville, and I'm your host, Khalil Ekulona. We're talking this hour with members of the Black Nashville Assembly. My guests are Erica Perry, Jamel Campbell Gooch, and Mike Floss. So I mentioned it at the very intro. In 2020, you all got started. What were the beginnings of the Black Nashville Assembly? How did you all come to assemble?
So we... it was really it was organic because Jamel and I, we grew up together. We, lived in the same neighborhood, same church, same high school. And so we were just talking and we were like, oh, we really need a space for Black people to really engage in a conversation around redefining public safety. And so we gathered other folks from across the city who were doing similar work and said, hey, y'all, what can we do together? And from that, the Black Nashville Assembly was born. And so our first assembly was in September of 2020. And it was, we were in the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, and it was online. And we were in person in our mask, and we had folks online. And the very first assembly was really about us saying, hey, not just what keeps you safe, but what are the issues in your community? And we took the top 3 things, and that's what we've been organized. It's been education, housing, and public safety. And so we've been organizing around those 3 things since we started in September 2020.
What are those early days? Talk to me about the early days.
In those early days, we used to do events in this space called Barbershop Theater. It's probably about the size of this room. You could fit about 15 people in it.
Okay.
And we were on Zoom calls with hotspots, and there's so many people on the Zoom call that it's getting fuzzy, or somebody's like, the audio's not loud enough for this, and you fighting all those technical difficulties. But we also had at the very start and even to this day, which is held strong, is like really, really powerful artists and creatives that have contributed to this work in a very special way. We had Josh Black do a comedy set virtual, and all you see is smiles and laughter in the chat. You know, you have really talented artists like Chuck Indigo, who did a performance of Kent Chronicles that is just ingrained in our memories forever, that takes this organizing work and it makes it real in a way that only the arts can. You know, it makes you understand why James Brown getting up and saying, "Say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud" was so impactful. Why Aretha Franklin singing "A Young, Gifted, and Black" in the front of that church is just so moving and invigorating for so many people, because it makes very complex things become very simple and understanding, and also attaches it to an emotional connection that is shared across communities. So we had a lot of really, really proficient and prolific artists give their time and their energy and their gifts to the space, and that really sparked a lot of what makes our organization really unique and special, and holds with a lot of like dense conversations can sometimes lose.
You know, there's a lot of other nonprofits in the city and the region, and sometimes the orgs can be doing similar types of work. I call it the general nonprofit 501c3 Venn diagram. But that along with limited resources can create, you know, kind of competition between nonprofits who are doing the same work. How do you all work with other organizations across the region so that all of your goals and missions can be fulfilled?
Yeah, so when we started, we really wanted to, you know, build out a foundation that was strong, make sure we understood our DNA, had really strong political grounding, had a base of members who were really in charge of developing out our strategy, building out the organization. And so we've been really great about working with our members and our network to build out the Black Nashville Assembly, build out the Youth Assembly. I'm grateful for partners like Advancement Project out of DC. They've been a huge part of our Youth Assembly work. I'm grateful for partners, Civilytics does quite a bit of our like budgeting work, like our up-to-story budgeting work. I'm really grateful for In Our Names Network, who've been really grateful to work with. And so, you know, now we're really in the process of thinking about who should we partner with, right? What is the work that we have to do, you know, together? And so right now we're in that process, and we just look, there's so much amazing work going on in the city, and that the thing is, there's so much work to be done that even if folks didn't partner, folks would still have enough work to do. And now the question is like, hey, what is the landscape? What is our movement requiring of us? And how should we work together? And then the other piece of it is that there's relationship building that we must do. We really spent 4 years building relationships with our members, with folks in North Nashville, with folks in East Nashville, with the schools in those neighborhoods, with the students and the families who live in those neighborhoods. And so now, you know, what does it look like to build the relationships with other partners too? And so I think we're in that process of really thinking about that, especially as we go into the fall and the winter of this year.
Jamel, you know, it takes a lot of grit to do this work. What are some of the qualities one must possess to do work like this?
Just really a love for people. Like, you're gonna like a love for people and have the ability to be faithful and hopeful when people cannot. I think one thing that we often don't talk about enough is the community building aspect of this organizing work. When we talk about like building deep relationships, like Erica talks about before, we are literally building a community amongst each other where we are walking together, not only in the campaign, but through life. And we're using that collective community to really build power and that connection between each other. Because as long as I don't have food on my plate, then the person across from me doesn't have it either. And that type of connection is how we actually solve issues. If you're not housed, I'm not housed. So we need to work together to make sure we all have housing. And the only way we can actually do that and take on the forces that prevent us from eating, that prevent us from getting housing, is by working together and building community. So that's really what a person has to have.
All right, let's take one last break. When we come back, we'll learn what the Black Nashville Assembly has planned for the future, and we'll talk about the importance of voting. You can join the conversation by tweeting us at This Is Nashville. We'll be right back. I'm Khalil Ekulona, and this is Nashville. My guests are the leaders of the Black Nashville Assembly, Executive Director Erica Perry, Organizer Jamel Campbell-Gooch, and Director of Arts and Culture Mike Floss. We've been discussing their work with the BNA and how the idea of participatory democracy has helped them teach the youth not only how to advocate for themselves, but to create and implement change on a city and statewide level. Again, thanks to you all for being here. Now, I understand you all host town meetings for the general public and the youth, right? Mm-hmm. How many a year do you all hold?
We hold community dinners to talk about city council. Then last year we held like a lot of forums during the city council race and the mayoral election. I don't have a number, but we do host a lot.
We held 3 candidate forums last year for the local election. We held a town hall earlier this year in January. It was a statewide town hall. We had some really great participants. Our young people led a panel.
Yes.
And then this year, we are planning a town hall again, and then we'll continue to have our community dinners where people can learn about how to get more engaged, civic engagement, and then I think also really continue to dive into the varsity spending plan, because now we have to, organize around building out the Office of Youth Safety. And so, we still need support and folks to really throw down on organizing around that. And so, yeah, we have more coming, but we held candidate forums in 2022 for the judicial race and the district attorney's race. And so that's a huge part of our work. The town halls is another piece of it. And then the people moving assemblies is where we make collective decisions.
Yep. How can people attend the next town hall or community dinner?
They should go to our website, rsmc.org, where they'll find updates on when we post our events. We have some events coming up in September and October, and so folks should definitely look there to figure out how they can sign up for an event. And then we did host an event. I think we hosted an online webinar with the Nashville Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta about Project 2025 in July, right? Yep. So, yeah.
Okay. Now, you also have a podcast that you record on the town. You record the town halls, but you talk to members of the community about the issues. Some folks might think that a podcast from organizers is kind of dry and stuffy. Yours is not.
Thank you.
Not at all. I want to listen to a clip from an episode in 2022 where y'all talk to local economist and organizer Denzel Caldwell.
Yo, this is Erica with the Black Nashville Assembly. This is our 14th or 15th episode.
14th.
This is our 14th episode. It's actually our 15th because we skipped 12. So
that makes it our 14th because the last one was our 13th.
Was 13. Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Yo, we have a special guest with us today. Black Nashville Assembly member, co-founder, Denzel X. Caldwell, or Denzel Xavier Caldwell if you're his family members. He is our favorite Black Panther, Black Power Ranger, Professor X.
Yeah.
Skills us up on the daily with the political education.
Come on.
His Instagram be popping with the political ed. We finna get into it today on our 14th or 15th podcast.
14th podcast.
14th podcast. Y'all, give it up. Give it up. Whew, give it up, y'all.
Appreciate
for Denzel X. Oh, sorry, Professor Denzel X.
Appreciate it. Thank y'all. Glad to be here.
Yes, thank you. Who else we got with us today? The Never Ran crew. Come on.
We don't know what Erica's on today. Mike Floss, Nashville, Tennessee, hip hop artist, community organizer with the BNA.
Jamel Campbell-Gooch, his community organizer with the Black Nashville Assembly.
Hey, turn up. All of us from Nashville. Shout out.
Yep.
Shout out to the Nashville folks in the room, hanging out together in Nashville, a.k.a. Goodlettsville, too. Okay, we in it. So, let's get it.
Okay, I love it. I love it because, you all are having fun. You're doing, vital work for the community, but you're having fun. So, for one's mental health, how important is it to not be so serious while you're doing serious work?
I think it's really important that we look at the experience of Black folks from a very loving and caring position. It's very easy to get disconnected to why you're doing the work if you're not exercising the life you want to live in your real life. If I'm not experiencing my family, if I'm not knowing what's going on with my friends and caring for them and being happy and celebrating their wins, then what are we fighting for? What are we doing? What is the world that we really want to believe in and really want to build? It's really important to experience that joy. So yeah, I think it's great. Erica was clearly she was full of joy that day, but the great thing about this work is it's connected to the people, and you know the people have so much greatness inside of them and so much brilliance. It's very inspiring and exciting to watch. So it's not just like this stuffy, you know, let's just work until we just burn ourselves out. No, we're engaged in this fight with our people. So that keeps us going.
What do you work together closely? I've been to your offices. You work together very, very closely for a few years now.
We do. Yeah.
What do you appreciate the most about each other?
Ooh, I'll start. This is very funny because we have been doing some trainings and learning about each other even more. But Erica is just an extremely brilliant leader. She's got a level of execution that is unmatched, and I think having her guidance and her leadership in our organization is really great. And she's also a stand-up comedian.
No, for real.
Didn't know.
People don't know that.
If you didn't know, she's a stand-up comedian with beautiful hair. She would let you know about how amazing her hair is.
Yes.
And we agree.
Totally agree.
Jamel is a robust and intelligent teacher, and also just like Jamel is kind of like the captain of your basketball team, that when you don't think you can hit the shot, he gonna make sure he put the ball in your hand to show you that you can hit this shot. He believes in people stepping into their leadership, and he also encourages them and invigorates them to do so.
And let me go next. I'm gonna tell you this right now, and they gonna hate that what I'm about to say is I'm sitting next to one of the greatest attorneys in Nashville and one of the greatest rappers in Nashville currently. And I just be feeling so honored to be in the midst of so much talent. You know, especially as a student of history, I know that we have a rich history of both in Nashville, but I don't think people really understand how talented on a national and global scale that these two people are that I'm sitting next to. Sometimes Mike says stuff that just automatically sounds cool. I'm like, oh, this is what it's like to be to be a somebody asked me the other day, they was like, do you rap? I said, no, I know the greatest rapper in the why do I need I don't even need to say anything with a rhythm to it. You know what I'm saying? So Mike is so talented. It's even hard to put in word. And Erica, the way she has the analytical ability to move something as simple as an agenda, right, in a way where people can feel brought along, I think is an amazing talent, right? When you can refine someone's ability all the way down to a place where they do the simplest thing, but they do it in a way that's magnanimous, it just really shows the amount of talent that they're actually showing and the gift that they have. And I see that in both of these two often and daily.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, Mike is extremely, extremely brilliant. When you listen to his music, he's able to take what is extremely complicated ideas, theory, and shape it into something that folks can digest, hold on to, and, you know, move off on. But also, Mike is a humble rapper. You just say he's the best rapper in, well, you know, I'm saying
he
the best
is.
rapper in Nashville.
I think so.
but he's incredibly humble. And Mike moved back home to Nashville to dedicate his life and commit his work to our people, to transforming our state.
For sure.
And the other thing I'll say about Mike is we balance each other out because Mike is actually great at relationship building.
He is.
He is great at seeing folks' talents and bringing it out of them in a way that I'm not the relationship building person in the way that he is. People call me robotic. That's not Mike. He gonna sit with you. We gonna tease it out. And I think that Jamel he's a trainer. He's our trainer. I mean, Jamel will take a theory, our organizing work. The young people have been repeating, we organize to get the goods. They know that like that because Jamel trained it in them for 6 months. Jamel knows how to relate to our young people. And then the other thing folks don't always know about Jamel, but he's a brilliant strategist, but also he understands restorative justice. And so when we talk about the varsity spending plan, so much of how we talk about restorative justice is because of Jamel's inherent ability to understand it, to know how to address conflict, but also because he studied. Both of them are studied in their crafts, and so that is what we see in our work. And so I'm humble and grateful to work with y'all. I'm so happy we came back home.
Yes, sir.
Yes. And the city is happy that y'all came back home. Okay, one last. I got about a minute left. I do want to ask this question: like, what are your words of guidance for people who want to get into this work? What is the most important thing you want them to know and to be prepared for as they enter the world of organizing?
One thing I want them to know is that the Southern Movement Committee did not get a check for $1 million from the city of Nashville.
Repeat that again.
That money that was earned from the Varsity Spending Plan is being held by Metro to build out that infrastructure. And we say that also because this is not just the job of a nonprofit or just one group or one particular set of folks to do. We want them to know that they can participate in the democratic process. They can bring their skills and talents to this movement, and they can see their current reality be shifted in real time.
So in other words, you that are listening to this, that's like, yo, I got some ideas around how to transform my community. You, the one who recognizes that we should have sidewalks across the country, across our cities. You, the one who wants to improve, you have a space to do this work.
I want to thank my guests for being here. Members of the Black Nashville Assembly, Erica Perry, Jamel Campbell-Gooch, and Mike Floss. Thank you all for being with us, and thank you for the work you're doing, y'all.
Thank you so much for having us. Blessings to you.
Yes, thank you. And thanks to you for tuning in this hour. This is Nashville is a production of Nashville Public Radio. Today's episode was produced by yours truly. It was directed by Tasha A.F. Lemley. Our technical director and board operator is Liv Lombardi. The masterminds behind our theme music are Larange and Namir Blade. You can listen back at thisisnashville.org or wherever you get good podcasts. And the conversation doesn't end here. Tweet us at This Is Nashville. You can find us on Instagram and tell us what you want from our show by filling out our quick survey online. You can also call or leave us a message. We will potentially use your message on air, but if you're down for it, call us at 615-751-2500. This is Nashville. I'm Khalil Ekulona. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody, and be good to each other.